What's up, guys? Welcome back to the ASAP Automotive channel, and today we're going to be doing brakes. Alright, we're back at it again today with our 2007 Ford Focus here that we did shocks and struts on the other day. For those of you guys who've seen that episode, for our buddy Lugnut over here. And so today what we're going to be doing is the brakes on this car. Well, specifically the front brakes. We're not doing rear today, just the front. So this is pretty much like we're doing this on a 2007 Focus today, and that's probably why you're looking at this video. This will cover pretty much any Focus first gen, and I think even into second gen. So from like, well, first gen's from what, 98 to 2007, second gen I think's 08 to 11 or something like that. But anyways, most of the brakes are pretty similar. So today we're gonna go ahead and get at it. All right, guys, so like I said, a lot of disc brakes are near about the same, pretty much same basic principle. You got a rotor, you got a caliper and a mounting bracket and some pads. Now your rotor might be free floating like this, that it comes right off once you take the wheel off and the caliper and bracket. Or it could be part of the hub assembly on like some older two-wheel drive vehicles on trucks and vans and some older cars. But today, this one's got a retaining clip here that we go in, just take off with our pry bar. And just like so. And cool, just like that. So we got that off. Next thing we're gonna do is we got a couple of retaining bolts back here, which I believe are Allen head. We're gonna go ahead and get those loose. We'll take our caliper off, and then go ahead and get our caliper bracket off. Alright, so we got our two retaining bolts for the caliper. We're going to go ahead and just slide it on off like so. It looks like the pads are going to want to come out with it. We'll go ahead and lay it up like this. Go ahead and remove this outboard pad. You see these things were definitely about toast. They got some heat cracking in there and all that. So, and you can see it was wearing uneven. It's wore a lot closer on that side than that side. And a lot of times that's because these slides, which you can see here, are bone dry. A lot of people think, and I get them in the shop all the time, and it's just a misunderstanding. But a lot of people think you just slap pads on, or not even do rotors or anything, and they wonder why brakes are expensive. Well, to properly do brakes anymore, I don't even mess with turning rotors. Yes, you can turn them, but there's not much there to begin with. You take that much more metal off, they can't dissipate as much heat, they warp that much easier, and rotors are cheap nowadays. This is literally what stops you from plowing into the poor bastard in front of you. Spend a few extra bucks. Don't cheap out. This is one thing you don't want to cheap out on your car. So anyways, that being said, to properly do brakes, you gotta clean all your contact points here. We're gonna go ahead and lubricate everything. We're gonna lubricate our slides so you don't have that sticking issue. And just like here, we're gonna go ahead and lubricate these too in a minute. So that being said, we're gonna go ahead, next thing we're gonna do is push our piston back in so where you can get our new pads and rotor on. All right, so this is a pretty handy dandy little tool to have to do this. It's nice, works just like a caulking gun, and you can spread it in there. They do make cheaper little ones you can get. You get them at any auto parts store, Amazon, Harbor Freight, wherever. Had a lot of problems with the nuts spinning loose on them after one or two uses, so it's up to you. But the simple idea is, like with this one, you reset it all the way back, put it in there, and just start. Now, at this point, it should go back in fairly easy. Shouldn't have to use a ton of force. If you do, you've probably got another issue, and that being either a bad caliper that's sticking, the piston that slides in back and forth, or you could have a hose going bad. The inside of these hoses will break down over time. The stuff will come loose and it acts like a brick wall in there, a check valve. The fluid can't get back. And I've seen a lot. I've actually had a vehicle in the other day. Poor person had been in to a shop 4 different times in the past 2 years to get brakes done on the front of this car, and it kept going metal to metal on the driver's side. Well, they never said anything, which is shit. Like, the actual whole cause was the actual hose was going bad, and every few months It was just dragging and going right down to metal to metal, and they charged them every time for that, and that's not right. So that being said, we're going to push it back in nice and easy, and this one's going in without much resistance, so we're good. So we'll do another video on hoses and calipers. If I get one in here that's got an issue, I'll definitely do a video for you guys. So that being said, just nice and easy until you feel it stop. Don't get crazy. You don't have to squeeze down on it. You can actually cause damage doing that. So we're going to go ahead and pull our pad out. It's got little retaining clips, and what we're going to do is go ahead and clean our contact points up in here, all this brake dust built up, and then lubricate our points. Alright guys, so now what we're going to do is go ahead and lube up our contact points. So this is one area where calipers or the pads slide back and forth in. This is a 3M clear silicone paste. It's a lot like the little packets they give you at the parts store at the counter. That stuff's okay. Granted, this stuff is like $20 a bottle, but I mean, I use it every day. The problem with the stuff at the parts counter is a lot of time the viscosity of it's not that great, and you get it hot and it can tend to heat up and run and drip down on parts where you don't want. So it's kind of up to you. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to spend a whole $20 on a jug like that, but you know, as long as you're not doing any crazy braking, you probably should be fine with the stuff over the counter. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and lubricate all our slide points. Make sure we don't need to get anywhere else. Now, if you notice here, it's got somewhere where the pads have been kind of beating against there. It's not terrible. This one's going to be okay. Much worse than that though, when we'd have probably been replacing the brackets. That can cause the pad to stick, can catch in a groove and end up wearing funny or not fully engaging. So if you have a good bit of wear in a spot like that, like the pads have been sticking or something, then you'd be better off just go ahead and get another bracket. So we got that lubricated. Next thing we're going to do is go in and lubricate our face of the piston where it meets the inboard pad. We're also going to put a little bit of silicone on here, all where this front pad rides against. And what this stuff does is, it keeps stuff from sticking, but it also keeps, if you got, especially if you run like a cheaper pad, like some organics or some, $9.99 special from the parts store, they're going to tend to squeak a lot. Or if you just throw pads on old rotors, this will help alleviate that too. So then we're going to go ahead and get all up in here and get some lube in there. And we're going to go ahead and lube those slide bolts themselves while we're at it. These things were bone freaking dry. So, all right. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and take our rotor off and get the new one ready to go on. All right, guys, so you notice when you get your rotors, if you're replacing them, they'll come in a plastic like that. Now, if you look, you'll feel it's kind of sticky and stuff, and you'll see they come with an oil on them, an oil coating, to keep them from rusting while they're on the shelf. Now, you don't want to just throw this on the car, because the first time you engage the brakes and heat them up, that oil is going to cook in, it's going to ruin the rotors, ruin the pads, and you'll never get rid of the squeaking or erratic braking, whatever. So what you want to do is we're going to go ahead and take brake clean and spray and go ahead with a clean rag and wipe all this off before we put it on the car. All right, guys, another quick little tip here. You notice we got the caliper just hanging up here chilling. So we got the luxury of this thing being able to stay up here like this, which was nice. So if yours doesn't want to stay up there for whatever reason, wants to keep falling off, the last thing you want to do is have this thing hanging by the hose. That's a good way to damage one really quick. You might not think you did any harm, but internally you could have done some damage. So if it doesn't want to chill like that, get you like a coat hanger or something like that. They actually make a fancy little tool that you can buy to hang these things. I think I have one somewhere in my box, but anyways, you can just make one out of a little metal coat hanger or something like that. But for now, we're just going to let it chill like this. We're going to go ahead and take our old rotor off, just like that. And before we put the new one on, we're going to go ahead and clean some of this surface rust off there so we got a good contact surface. Another tip here, guys, is especially if you're doing this by yourself, a lot of times you can put one of the lug nuts on and it'll keep the rotor from falling out on you when you're trying to put the bracket back on. Alright, so it's inevitable that you're probably going to bump it a little bit with the bracket and get a little bit of grease on there. It's no problem, just wipe it off and we're good there. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our pads on now. And sometimes with doing disc brakes, sometimes you'll set the pads down in the bracket first. There's a handful of different types of retaining clips and bracket setups, but this one in particular, the pad actually snaps in the back and then slides in here, and then we can slide the front one in, and then we got the retaining clip. So that being said, okay. And another thing you want to look for too is pay attention when you pull your pads off. Now granted, some idiot could have been in there before and done them wrong, it's very possible, but a lot of times they'll have a little thing called the tattletale coming off on the side, and it's a little metal tab that as this pad material, friction material wears down and it starts getting to that, it does exactly that. It tells you that, hey, your brakes are getting down. You'll start noticing the squealing when you get on your brakes, and it's time to start considering changing the brakes. But this one we're going to go ahead and snap in here. If we can get it to, just like so. Go ahead and slide the other one just in there like that. Now, another thing too, when you go to put the caliper back on, make sure you didn't twist up this hose. You get one twist in that and it can restrict flow, and then all of a sudden next thing you know you got this thing pulling left or right. So pay attention and you'll see the lines in the hose. It looks like corduroy pants almost, and you can see how that's all nice and lined, not twisted, and we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and set this bad boy back on here, and now we can go ahead and put our back two retaining bolts in. Alright, so went ahead and lubricated the inside of where these slides go, but we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of lubrication on there. You don't want to get too crazy with it, and then we'll slide them on in there like so. And the same for, hold on just one second, let's get this other one in there. Okay. And like this one, you're going to have to push down on the caliper a little bit to get your bolts lined up. And remember, it's another little tech tip too. You never want to start bolts with any kind of impact or air tool. Hand tools are fine, but just kind of make sure that you either do it by hand or a hand tool. Just start easily starting any kind of hardware, whether it be a nut or bolt, because you can quickly cross thread it and end up in a bad day. Alright guys, so we got our retaining bolts started and locked down and just good and snug. You don't need to get crazy with them. So we're going to put these little dust caps back on here and put those all the way in. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and put this retaining clip, which keeps the caliper in line. So just start them in there, walk them over like so, just like, make sure they're all the way in there, and you're good. And that, guys, is how you do disc brakes. So like I said, there's some different variations of brackets and retaining clips, but that's the basics of it. So now that we got all that back together, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and do the other side, which will be absolutely identical. We're going to go ahead and knock that out, and then after that we're going to get in the car after we put the wheels back on and torque down the lug nuts, and we're going to go ahead and pump the brakes up nice and easy until they get hard before you even start the car. Then you're going to start the car again, or go ahead and start the car and then pump them up again until they feel good and firm. So if you don't do that, you go to just start the car and go take off, you ain't gonna have no brakes because they're all the way in. So remember to do that before you do anything else. If you screw that up, it's on you. No responsibility here. This is just a kind of tutorial and not a complete end-all guide. Now once you get them pumped up and you're ready to go, you're not quite done yet. Find you a good little back road or where nobody's really around, and you need to burnish in the brakes. It's a step a lot of people don't realize or either just forget to do or don't do when they're doing brakes. You need to seat them in. So what you do is you get down a good little country road or whatever, we've got plenty of them around here, and you know, get up to about 20 mile an hour or 30 mile an hour and just kind of get on the brakes pretty good. And then get up again, get up about 40 miles an hour and kind of get on them good. Don't get crazy and stab on the brakes, that's how you warp rotors. What you want to do is heat cycle them a couple of times, about 2 or 3 times of doing that, anywhere from about 20 to 40, 50 mile an hour, and just a good firm get on the brakes. And that's all it really takes to go ahead and seat those in. So after that, you're good to go, and you've got fresh brakes, and you're good for hopefully another 50, 60,000 miles. All right, guys, and that's a wrap. So that's how you do brakes, disc brakes on the front of a car. It's pretty much about the same thing with rear brakes. Sometimes you'll have an emergency brake caliper in there, or emergency brake setup in the caliper. I'll go over that in a later video, but pretty much that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Love doing these how-tos for you guys. So if you got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And always, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. Stuff really helps. And anyways, man, now it's time for a good old Dr. Pepper. Just exactly what the doctor ordered. Remember, guys, till next time, stop is not an option.